I'm doing it. I've decided I'm gonna change cameras and change my system. I wasn't completely happy with my camera, and I think that this is the time. But I don't just want to tell you about my switch from the Sony a7R3 to the new Canon R5. I also want to tell you how I'm switching and why I'm switching, so hopefully I can help you choose the camera that's right for you too. First, I want to talk about my previous switch. I was shooting the Nikon D850 about 1.5 years ago, and I decided that I want to try switching to mirrorless. I just need to try something new. But hey, look at me. You've been the best camera I've ever had, D850. But I just feel like I need to try mirrorless. So I picked up the a7R3 and I wanted to shoot with it full time to see if I wanted to make the switch. I wanted to try mirrorless, and I wanted the electronic viewfinder, I wanted the autofocus system, the IAF, the USB-C charging. There were all of these features that were really interesting me, and I wanted to give mirrorless a go. During my process of switching from the Nikon D850 to the Sony a7R3, I made this series of videos trying travel and portraits and all different things. And I liked so many features about the Sony, but I felt more like the Sony one by a hair. And also, I felt like mirrorless is the future, and so I wanted to get in on it, get in early, see what it was all about. So why am I leaving the Sony a7R3 so soon and switching to a completely different system? I did try to update to the a7R4, but I didn't like dealing with the 60 megapixels and the file sizes. We do have a video of Tony trying to convince me to make the jump, and it just wasn't right for me. So if you're interested in why I didn't move to that camera, we do have a video about it. We have a lot of videos. The first thing that I ask myself when I'm thinking about getting a new camera is, what do I like about my current camera and what do I dislike about my current camera? That's a question you should ask yourself when you're switching to. With my current camera, the Sony a7R3, I like having a mirrorless camera. I love the 42 megapixels, the resolution is beautiful, the dynamic range is excellent, the autofocusing system is really good. I like IAF, but I also really love the glass. The Sony G Master lenses are excellent, they're really sharp, they're beautiful lenses, and that was one of the things that got me into the Sony system. But here are the things I don't like about the Sony a7R3. Don't at me, David. Don't at me, David. The ergonomics. It's something I always just assumed I'd get over with time, and the grip has just never fit in my hand completely comfortably. Was it a deal breaker? No. The menu system. I even said in my last videos when I made the switch, I've never liked the menu system. I know Sony updated it in some of their newer cameras, that's great. My camera doesn't have it, and I don't like it. The dials and buttons, again, not a deal breaker. I've just used other cameras where I like the tactile experience better. And even the overall shooting experience of the Sony has never been fun for me, like a Fuji or an Olympus camera. It's been more neutral, which I actually like, but I'd say it's more of a neutral, overly engaging in a technical way. So when I'm shooting, I often will think, oh, what's the setting that is accidentally on? And how do I switch it? And when I go into the menu system, what is it called? And where do I find it? And so I'd often find myself distracted by the process, but I didn't trust my instinct, because every time I would complain in a video, I'd get like 1,000 Sony fanboys saying, well, that's because you just have to do this, and that's because you just have to do that, and I found myself trying to adjust. And then finally I lent my camera to my friend Samantha, and she was like, man, this thing is not fun to shoot with. And I was like, yeah, why didn't I just listen to how I actually felt? It's just not a fun shooting experience for me. Why am I doing this? Also, no touchscreen. And I like having a touchscreen for the pinch and zoom and the swiping. It's just easy, it's intuitive, and it's something that I enjoy. None of those things were deal breakers to me. Buttons, not a huge deal. Menu system, not a huge deal. But it was kind of like death by 1,000 cuts. All of these little things added up to just irk me. But the main reason why I want to switch is because I love shooting wildlife, and my Sony a7R3 is just not great for that. Is it doable? Yeah, sure. But Sony was boasting 10 frames per second with that camera, which I was excited about. It gets 10 frames per second in high plus mode. But once you're in high plus mode, the camera loses its ability to autofocus as well. So then you're making this choice between having a good autofocusing system with wildlife or having the frame rate. And that just isn't something I wanted to compromise on. Another thing is that it's just really laggy. The EVF was laggy and I didn't like that experience. So I switched over to the Sony A7R3 kind of, but I kept my Nikon D850 and my 600mm lens for wildlife, which I shoot all the time. So I kind of felt like now I have two cameras. It was kind of a pain. What a problem. Now I have two cameras. Oh, shucks. Okay, so that's what I like and what I am not liking so much about my current primary stills camera. The next important question to ask is, how and why did I choose the Canon R5? Why not any other camera? And that's a question we get all the time. Which camera should I choose? So I want to take a moment to plug Tony's book that he's worked really hard on, which is a buying guide, and he goes through like the gear that you should get for night photography if you're interested. He goes over all different budgets, from budget and used gear to the most expensive pro gear. There's stuff about flashes, lenses, cameras. I'll even delve into this to get information because it just has so much. It's affordable, and if you ever think about asking us what camera should I get, which lens should I get, which studio light should I get, it's all in here, and I'll put that link down below. So, oh, I'll give you a coupon too, like 20% off. Okay, so how did I choose Canon? Well, one of the things that I always ask myself that you should ask yourself too is, which pictures do I actually take? Which types of photography do I enjoy, and how do I use my camera? I like travel and wildlife photography the most, but I also take a lot of portraits. That means that I'm gonna need a whole different array of focal lengths. I like to have a wide angle lens, like a 16-35 for travel. My favorite lens is always like a 24-70 because it's so versatile. I'll just keep it on my camera. I like a 70-200 for portraits, and for wildlife, I like really long glass, like a 500, 600, 800mm lens. I'm gonna need something like that, and I want it all to be sharp. Canon has great glass. That's part of the reason I'm moving over. Their lenses are really gorgeous, but they also have a lot of different lenses. So they have the wildlife lenses I need, they have stuff I want for travel, for portraits, for street photography, and then they also have some really cool niche-y lenses that are good for pros. If you're not interested in those super expensive niche-y lenses, then you don't have to buy into a system that has them, but I like something like an 85mm f2, even if I'm just renting it to have fun with it for a bit. Another question you should ask yourself that I ask myself is, what camera experiences have I enjoyed? When have I enjoyed shooting? Which cameras were fun for me? Which ones did I like? Which ones did I not like? I do like a tactile experience, like the Fuji X-T4. I think it's really cool that you have these dials and buttons, all very accessible. You have the aperture ring on the lenses with the Fujis. That's really fun. But when I think about the experiences I really love, I'm a person where I like to forget my camera. I love to just sink into the moment and just think about the scene, and I want my camera to disappear because I just want to be completely immersed in the moment that I'm photographing. I don't want to be fussing with it. You might be different. You might love interacting with your camera, but I don't want that. So I knew I was ruling out Fuji. I knew I was ruling out Olympus. I already have Sony, so I knew I wanted to move away from that. Nikon, I'd shot with the Z series and that wasn't for me, so Canon just seemed like the next logical step. I also take my cameras everywhere in all conditions. In the rain hiking, in the desert, I'll just always have it over my shoulder, so I need something durable, weatherproof, dustproof, and Canon is great for that too. Ultimately, the features I'm really excited about with the R5 is the megapixels aren't that huge jump that I did not want with the A7R4. They're 45 megapixels, so I'm only going up a few. It has a flip screen. It's a full flip screen, which a lot of people think that's just for vloggers, and it's not. I like to shoot over my head, I like to shoot down low, and that helps me get the angles that I want. It's also a touch screen, which means you can not only swipe through your photos, but you can also pinch to zoom. That's so nice. It does have the Canon ergonomics that I love. I like the way it fits in my hand. I love the way the buttons fall under my fingers. These are these small tactile things you can't show in a side-by-side photo thing in a review. It's just these little intangibles that you either like or don't like, and that's something that I like. The Animal Eye AF, which I liked on the Sony, is even better on the Canon. It locks in so quickly. It just makes shooting wildlife more convenient because you know that you're going to get the eye in focus and then you can compose your shot easier. Just a little convenience. I had talked about a shooting experience with your camera being fun, like a Fuji, or neutral to a little annoying, like the Sony, where you're thinking about your settings a little more. I would say this is just neutral. I also noticed the buffering is really quick on this, and while it's buffering, you're not going to be locked out of looking out of your pictures or anything, so that's a little nice little thing that I won't have to worry about anymore. And then I'm really excited about the wildlife lenses. We reviewed the 600mm f11 and the 800mm f11, and I like them a lot. They're light, they're easy to walk around with, and the results were really sharp and surprisingly impressive. The one concern I have with them is that with the f11 fixed aperture, I'm concerned I'll have to be in highlight all of the time if I want to get action shots, which is like the shot you really want if you're a wildlife photographer. That's why I'm not, like, this is a switch that's a test. That's why I'm bringing you along with me. So I'll be doing wildlife, street, I'll be doing mock travel since I can't go anywhere. And I'll be seeing if this is actually the camera I want to move on to, but you have to test it out sometimes to see. And I also have some real concerns with this camera. You've probably heard about the overheating problems. I'm not going to be shooting in 8K. This is one of those times where you have to see if a camera works for you. I don't care about 8K. I'm not going to use 8K, and so the 8K is not a problem for me, the overheating. But what might be a problem is the high-speed 4K, which also overheats. I do sometimes get some little B-roll clips in 4K, but I tend to use the lower speeds, which I heard are not a problem. The main concern that I have is that I heard that once your battery life gets below about 75–70%, your frame rate goes down. And that could be a huge problem with wildlife photography. The frame rate is really important to me, as I outlined with my A7R3. That's something I didn't like about it. We'll see if this can actually stand up to wildlife. And that's pretty much as I can say now. I know the features my A7R3 had, what I like and don't like, and I know the features that the R5 has, but I need to really put them through their paces in the real world to see if they work the way they say they do on paper, and to see if they work with me, if I like the camera. So my next videos are going to be a portrait shoot. I'm gonna do wildlife pictures, mock travel, as I said, and if there's any other tests you want me to do, you can leave comments down below and I'll try it out. And again, if you're wondering if you should switch cameras, or if you're wondering if you should get new glass or a new light or whatever, please check out our buying guide. We work really hard on it. Tony updates it to make sure it has updated gear in here, and it's a really good deal. People say in the reviews it'll save you hundreds of dollars, so check it out and hit subscribe if you want to follow up on the rest of my videos. Thanks.